Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Kraftchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to Dateable. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of Dateable.
We have such a treat for you all today because, I don't know, if you've been along with us since the beginning, we've been around for 10 years, 10 plus years. And in those years, we've collected many friends and listeners. We've been following their journeys, especially around their love lives. And some of them we have back on this episode to give us an update of what's been going on for them.
I love this so much. It makes me so happy to rehear from some of these people because I think, clearly we've been going for 10 years, but it was really in that 2020 COVID era that we got really close with a lot of our listeners because the Facebook group, everything was virtual. If you weren't around for that era, you may not be aware that we used to have this thing called the sounding board, and we had this Facebook group that we'd basically do like these weekly happy hours that like members would come on and they would get really deep with each other and with us. And we did one-on-one sessions with a lot of them. And maybe you were in that era and you're like, oh, that time. That's like probably the fondest memory I have of COVID. Everything else maybe can go away, but I did really love that time because I feel like it allowed us to really connect with people instead of just seeing like an Instagram follower or like a number of a download. Like it was like we got the story of like who it was listening to this and like how this podcast and being in this community really changed their love lives.
It was, I don't want to do Zoom calls or happy hours again, but that was just the perfect time. Yeah. Yes, it was the perfect time to do this because we had this weekly grounding time with each other and to remind each other we're not alone and to say like, hey, we are all in this together. And look, here's some friendly faces that we can talk to on a weekly basis. And as a result of those memories, we've developed these friendships with so many of you all who are part of this community. And a lot of you also inspired these characters we have in our book, How to Be Dateable. Of course, they're composite characters. None of the characters in our book are based on one person, and all identities have been privatized and all of that. But so many of your stories that you're going to hear from today's episode, so many of the people who we interviewed here were actual inspiration for the book.
And we talk about this in the book that we did want to follow like these composite characters because there was a difference of how they were approaching dating versus like this other side that felt very negative and like nothing could ever work in their favor. And like we really saw this just huge shift in the people in our community during this time of going from that maybe like this defeated feeling of dating to being like, actually, it will all work out. I got to make it work. It's not even like, will it work? I am going to make it work and do what's right for me. And just like taking this time to really like get to know themselves and like take that into it because, at the end of the day, like being a conscious dater, like someone that's open to growth and development, like that is the type of person that really can have the type of relationship you never thought was even possible. And like, if you're listening to this podcast, you're on the same boat as all the people we're speaking with. And I love doing success stories, and success story isn't even like the right word. It's like evolution, but it did bring them to like a good place of life. And I don't think that necessarily means you need to find a relationship, but it could even just be like the way you think about dating now, just giving more peace and tranquility and like less anxiety. Like all of that to me is success in itself too.
When you just hear the voice, the tone in people's voice from the beginning of when we met them to now, where you're going to hear from them, it is like night and day. It goes from people being so stuck in these spirals of dating and being negative and feeling hopeless and just feeling like there's just nobody good out there. Like everybody had the sentiment that, I've exhausted the dating pool. Like the dating is so hard. Why is modern dating so effed up? To now you'll hear, and if you're stuck in that phase as well, just hear what the future you could sound like, because just the tone of their voice is completely changed. It goes from I have no agency over my love life to now I have full agency over my love life. I have the freedom and peace that I've been looking for because I created it, because I did the work.
I'm so glad you say that, because I think that really is like how we know when someone is going to be successful, quote unquote. And I mean, I think we've seen this even with people we talk to in our Finding Your Person program. Like when they're in it, they don't necessarily like come out and meet their person like while they're in the program, but we can see this shift of just their approach, the way they're thinking, the way they're talking. And we're like, you're on the right path now. Like we feel good about like where you're going. And I think like sometimes hearing other people's stories, like you can look at it one of two ways. Like you can look at it being like, why not me? Like, why does this person, have it work out and it didn't work out for me? And I think like that isn't necessarily like an attitude that's serving or even accurate, because a lot of times we don't really know what someone's gone through. Like, I feel like I was in that mode for a long time. Like, why am I the only friend that like can't make things work out? And then you hear like other people, they're like, I went through the same stuff. And it's like, you're just not seeing that because you're seeing like the results. So I think hearing like the lens and seeing into that, like someone else's process of like, okay, maybe they're in a relationship today, but that doesn't mean it was like easy for them to get there. It doesn't mean they didn't do any self-work. It didn't mean that they didn't like put in, the hours and go on shitty dates and like do all the things. So I think that's first part. And then it's also proof that like, if it worked for them, it can also work for you. Like I remember reading Amy Spencer's Finding Your Half Orange. I talk about that book all the time. It was very game-changing for me. And a big part of that book was like looking at your friends' relationships, and instead of being envious, being like, if it worked for them, like it can also work for me. And like, let me pull what I like from that and put it out into the universe that I want that also. It's proof that it's possible.
Absolutely. And case in point is the first person you're going to meet is Ryan. He is someone we've been following for a while, and he will show you that, I don't know, I guess sometimes you think you've like found that person, right? And you've like, I did the work, I found the person, and maybe it doesn't turn out the way you thought it would.
And before we get into Ryan, let's hear a message from some of our sponsors. I've been all about building an intentional wardrobe, leaning into pieces that are timeless, comfortable, and look put together. When I have all my go-to staples, it just makes getting dressed that much simpler. And you all know that Quince is my absolute favorite place to get fabrics that feel elevated and fits that are flattering. My latest obsession is their short sleeve cashmere shirts. I bought 2 in different colors, a pale pink and yellow. Both go so well with the pants I also have from Quince, and I've been wearing this combo everywhere. Their cashmere is so soft, and I can't get over the price. Everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Refresh your every day with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/dateable for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/dateable for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dateable.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is sharing the message that connection is crucial because good relationships are an essential and sometimes overlooked component of mental well-being. If your relationships could use some strengthening, a licensed therapist from Talkspace can help. Therapy can help you communicate better with loved ones, repair conflicts, and understand how to address loneliness and build community. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a therapist within 2 days. You'll meet with your therapist online on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make personal connections a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.
Okay, let's hear it from Ryan.
Hey, Dateables. It's Ryan. Been a while since we've checked in. I still listen to the podcast every now and then. Julie and Yue are awesome guides in trying to navigate the craziness of dating, but they reached out and they asked me for a little update as to life events and what has kind of developed since the last time you all heard from me. So yeah, I guess I'll start off with saying when I first started listening to Dateable, which was in the 2020 timeframe, which is kind of a wild time to really start trying to focus on self-work and how to attract a partner that you want to spend the rest of your life with. But in a way, it kind of actually was the perfect time because it was a great time for self-reflection. We had so much time to kind of look in on ourselves and do some of that self-work. And so during that time, during the shutdown, it actually facilitated meeting some really amazing people through the Dateable community. And we were able to have happy hours with each other and discuss developments. And even though dating wasn't exactly on the forefront of everything that's happening, you know, during the COVID time, it was a time period where we were able to really complete a lot of that self-work that Julie and Yue are talking about and some of the specialists that they would have on and advise us. So as that time kind of went, I had just gotten out of a major relationship and I was doing some of that self-work. And after a little bit of time, I ended up meeting someone much younger than myself, which was outside of the norm for me to date. And while I don't have any regrets with that relationship, sadly, it did end. I learned a lot from it, I think, and it taught me a little bit about intentionality in my dating and really just like making sure that when you're dating a partner that you find somebody who is your best friend or could be your best friend. And it's not just about attraction. It's not just about like making sacrifices for that person. And, you know, it's important to get out of your shell and experience things that are maybe not quite so normal to you. That was really, really a big part of that relationship. But really, it showed me that it's important to find someone that regardless of what you're doing, you have the best time with them when you do it, and that you not only get out and explore and experience things together, but, you know, the 95% of the rest of your life when you're not dating, when you're not doing the fun, exciting things, you're doing the things that you love on the day-to-day with that person, because the rest of your life is that monotonous kind of day-to-day stuff. And you have to be able to tolerate that person through all of that. And if it's not your best friend, that's going to be really hard. So without really saying too much about that, then I ended up meeting a person that kind of fulfills that for me through a mutual friend. She really did the homework and didn't just introduce me to, hey, there's this other gay person I want you to meet. She talked to both of us separately, found that we had common interests, found that we had common core values, found that we wanted same things from our relationship with someone. And we ended up meeting at actually a Pride 5K, which was really amazing. And from there, things really kind of just blossomed. We love doing things together. We watch anime, we play video games, we travel, we go to races and run. We do a lot of physical fitness together, and it takes a special kind of person to match my big energy. But, you know, he's there for it, and he helps to balance out the other parts of me, grounds me because I'm quite eccentric at times. But needless to say, that led to us getting engaged. And over the last year, despite the tumultuous nature of the world at large, we planned our wedding, and in a week and a half, we will be getting married. So I guess that's like the big thing for me is the update that I'm getting married. And while it's stressful, it is an extremely exciting time in our life. And despite kind of the oppressive nature of the world writ large right now, I'm happy. I'm happy and I'm genuinely fulfilled because I'm not just with someone I am attracted to, because I'm very attracted to them, but I'm also with my best friend and I get to spend every day with them. So I'm just really grateful to what Yue and Julie do for everyone, and definitely it helped me get to this point.
Okay, first off, I am so happy for Ryan.
Yes.
By now, like, he recorded this a couple weeks ago. He's had his wedding, so congratulations.
Yay!
And I just remember him going through that breakup he mentioned. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so hard sometimes when you think you found your person, but you realize later that they're not. And it can be really devastating and hard to move forward. But this is such a good reminder that, like, you don't need to stay because it's comfortable. Like, if you're feeling like this isn't true to my myself. Follow your heart, because like there could be something, most likely there is something, not even could, better suited for you on the other side, even if that's not apparent at first.
And it's devastating. I get it. I mean, we were with Ryan when he first met the previous partner. Mm-hmm. And we even felt like, oh, this is it. We're so happy for Ryan. But also know that if you trust in yourself and your feelings, even though you could have had this relationship where you thought this was the one, trust that it was at that point and then it wasn't right anymore. So you can get out of it. Like, you don't have to feel like, oh, I made the wrong decision or I now can't trust myself. At the time, that was the right relationship for Ryan until it wasn't. And this is how you can come out of it. And then now it's making room for the actual right person for him. And we couldn't be any more happy for him.
I love too how he talks about just like find someone that can be your best friend, because like I know for me this is how it feels, and he really broke it down that like 95% of the time like you're not doing like the date stuff, like you're doing like the mundane things. Yes. And like if you could have fun going grocery shopping with the person or just like sitting on the couch, like the Sunday test we call it, this is like the person, right? It's not someone you just like tolerate being around, but it's like you actually enjoy these like monotonous moments.
And we need a friend like his friend who was able to set him up based on compatibility and not just because they were two gay guys who are single. We know friends like that who are just like, hey, I know a single person and you seem single, you'd be great together. No, this friend actually was very thoughtful about this setup, so we could all use someone like this.
Yes, we absolutely could. I've been there before. Oh, you're single. I got the perfect guy for you. And it's like, no, you know nothing about it. Awesome. Well, we love hearing from Ryan. We're so happy for them and, wishing them the best.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, next up we have Caitlin. Let's hear it from her.
What's up, Dateables? My name is Caitlin. I am a listener of Dateable podcast since 2020. When I discovered the podcast, I was single and I was really leaning on Dateable to find a community because dating was so lonely at that time. It was when dating apps first came out years before, and we were just trying to figure out how to date in this modern dating world. And it was really hard. So I am so grateful for the Dateable community to being a place where you were heard and you weren't alone in this really hard dating world. But as of today, I am in a relationship. I found someone on Tinder, the one app that I swore off. I was always very vocal in the group about dating apps, and I was very anti-apps. And I found my person on Tinder. He had every red flag in his profile, old pictures. He had office quotes. He had a sarcastic tone, everything that would just make you go, ugh. But I looked at it and I thought to myself, you know what? Everything else I have done does not work. Nothing I have done has worked. So I'm going to switch it up and just do something different, which is swipe right on someone whose profile sucks and he's on Tinder. And here we are, 2 years later in a relationship and very committed and loving to each other. I will say the biggest advice that I have for anyone dating is to, one, switch it up. When you date, you got to switch it up. When you hit a plateau, there's probably something that you're doing that isn't working and you need to switch it up. For me, it was going on something I did not feel was going to ever work for me. And surprisingly, it did. Also, too, my biggest relationship advice to everyone is you will find your love for each other in a relationship during the hard times. You will not find it during the easy times. The easy times are good. The easy times are what you get after the hard times. But when you go through hard times with your person, you really see your love tested, and the end results and getting out of that is the good times together. And when you fight for each other and really go and learn from each other during hard times, then your love deepens for each other and you learn so much from each other on how to support one another. And that is true love.
Okay, first off, do you remember when Caitlin was so anti-app? Because I do.
How can I forget?
Like, I remember her just being like, I will never meet someone on the apps. I hate the apps. I refuse to go on them. And this is such a good reminder of just like trying things and like not ruling out avenues. And like your person really can be anywhere. And it doesn't need to be either or. Like, if just because you're on the apps doesn't mean you need to like give up meeting meeting people in person. She really did approach apps like how we talk about them on Dateable, like the 30-second rule, the maybe as a yes, like filtering through the convo and not the profile. And I'm so glad that she was able to like get on the apps first of all, and then get out of the app dynamics to like make them work for her.
Yeah, this is not Game of Thrones. There's no like house of apps and house of no apps. They're not rivalries. These are all resources we have available to us. So why not use them? And she also points out that, her partner's profile has some red flags that actually aren't red flags. But, when you're in that mode of like the red flag hunt, you think old photos. Oh, no, red flag. But these are not indicators of whether someone is going to be a good partner or wants to be in a relationship. So it's great that she was able to overcome that and see him for the person that he is.
The red flags, it's always like things that are not detrimental to a relationship that like really don't matter. I'm glad though that she also addressed finding love in the harder times. Like the easy times are easy, but it's really in the hard times that your bond can grow. And, every relationship is going to have something that makes it hard. And that doesn't mean that it's time to bounce. And especially like when you get date later on, like I know just from her story, she didn't really explicitly talk about this in the recording, but her partner did have a child before her and came out of another relationship. And, all these different dynamics, like they're hard. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean there's nothing beautiful in them, but they do make things like, things you have to work through together and figure out together as a team. And if you look at it in a positive, it can really show you that like this is the right relationship because you're able to not just work through this stuff, but come out even stronger.
Yeah, I think the old Caitlin would have branded this as baggage. I think a lot of us would be like, oh, this person has baggage. They have kids. But the new Caitlin branded this as like a bonus. Like this is something I get to experience and this is something I get to do, not that this is something I have to deal with. So I think that's like a major evolution of the old versus new Caitlin. And also she just got way more intentional on what she was looking for this time. That comes from the work that she did on herself.
I love seeing their photos on Instagram and Facebook. Like you could just tell they look so like content and happy with each other.
And they're just like good. It's not performative. It's like, this is who we are. And we're into each other.
So happy for you, Caitlin.
And we're going to keep this rolling. Before we hear from our next guest, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. All right. Next up, we've got Shaq.
Hey, Julie and Yue, it's Shaq here. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to tell my story. I've been listening to Dateable since around 2018. At the time, I had been actively dating on apps for a very long time, but I had never been in a long-term relationship. I remember feeling very stuck. I found a podcast by Googling for dating advice because I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I kept going on dates, but couldn't get past the first few. And looking back now, I realize a lot of my conversations were pretty surface level. I also used to plan these activity dates, and I thought that made me a great date, but in reality, they didn't leave much room for any to build emotional connection. It was more about doing things than actually getting to know each other. But however, listening to Dateable really changed that for me. Over time, I started learning more about myself, picking up tools to approach dating differently. One of the biggest things I took away was how important emotional connection is, which honestly, it was something that I was not aware, it wasn't something I was very aware of before. I shifted from trying to impress the other person to asking myself a much more important question: how does this person make me feel? And I can say that everything changed for me. I started noticing when I felt judged or I couldn't be myself on a date. And instead of trying harder, I realized that those people, they were not the right fit for me. During COVID, I joined the Facebook group you guys hosted or created. It's called Love in the Time of Corona. Now the group is just now Big Dateable Energy. And during that group, I made a lot of close friends. And then also during that period, I did one-on-one sessions with Yue and Julie, and that helped me get out of that rut that I was stuck in. And then I started approaching dating with more clarity and confidence. Fast forward to today. I met my person a few years ago. We actually met at a grocery store, and now I'm married, and we're actually expecting a baby boy this summer, which is really exciting for us. If I had to point to the biggest shifts I made, one was letting go of over preparing for dates. Back in the day, I used to go in with a mental script, and that made things feel very unnatural. And once I stopped doing that, I actually could be present. The other shift was learning how to express my emotions and communicate what I need and want. That wasn't easy at first, but it definitely made a huge difference in the kinds or types of connections I was able to build. So looking back, it really feels like I went from trying to perform on dates and trying really hard to actually showing up as myself. And that's what ultimately led to the relationship I have today. And I just want to say and close it off by, thanks again and for everything you all do. Your podcast played a very big role in my journey. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. Bye.
I literally cried when I heard this recording. I did not know the baby news. I knew that he got married, but I didn't know the baby news, and I started to cry. I was like texting you, and I'm like, I'm crying right now.
Oh my God. I was like, Julie, you're going to cry for all of them because she's like, yeah, that's true.
I think his story is just so relatable for so many people, though, is like, we hear this all the time of just like how hard it is to get past those like initial first dates. And I know I've been there before too, of like being like, why does nothing ever seem to work out? I don't have trouble making friends, but like I can't make dating work. And I think some of it's just the reality of dating. Like 99% of people aren't going to be a match. But I know even like for myself and Shaq, this was clearly apparent too, is like I wasn't bringing my real self to dates. I was bringing like this date version of me, and it felt performative. It felt structured. And, once I was able to bring that real self forward, it got so much easier. And I'm so glad that Shaq had that experience as well.
The old Shaq was all about these activity dates. We would talk to him and he's like, I have this great date plan. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. And now he even realizes, those are not conducive to connection because they do create an environment of being performative or, kind of like being not the normal you. So it's wonderful to see the true Shaq come out. And it's so wonderful that throughout the years, we've heard less and less from him. And Julie and I are like, I wonder what's going on with Shaq. We haven't heard from him in a while. And when we reach out to him, he's like, oh yeah, I'm in a really happy, stable relationship.
Yeah. And then he's like, and I'm married. And now we've got the news of baby on the way. Love it.
By the way, yeah.
I think though, just like the whole emotional connection, because this is something like he talked about too. And like we really helped him with this, like when we did the one-on-one sessions. And like I remember doing like this mock date with him. Do you remember that? Like virtually? Yes. And then there was this time where his friend came on the call and he was like a totally different version of himself in the best way possible. And we were like, bring more of that to dating. Like you're so comfortable and animated in yourself. We're like, bring you into dating. And I love those scenarios because you're not actually telling anyone to change. You're actually telling them to be more like themselves. And that's like the best case scenario.
And you can redo your dating profile all you want. You can do all the activities all you want. End of the day, when you get into a relationship, it has nothing to do with those activity dates. It has nothing to do with your dating profile. You strip all that down and it's just you on the couch. Like, who's your partner signing up for? And when we finally saw the real Shaq come out when his friend was on that call with him, I think, Julie, you and I were both like, wait, who is this? Like, nice to meet you and more of you, please. But also like, why hasn't this Shaq come out yet? So glad that his now wife get to experience the real Shaq.
I think with Shaq too, one of the things that we were able to really see was like he didn't need to keep improving his profile. Like he had more than enough matches. Like we were able to really see where the connection was breaking down. And I think like without that awareness, like you can really spend your time in areas that aren't doing it. Like it doesn't matter if you're getting more and more dates if like none of them are building a connection. And I think this part that he said was, I noticed when I started feeling judged on a date and instead of trying harder harder I realized those people weren't right for me. And that was so different than the Shaq that came in that was really trying to make everyone love him and like make it all work. You know, I just think that's such an important shift that one, he was able to show his true self, but also recognize like this person's not here for my true self. That doesn't mean I change. It just means they're not the right person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad that he made that shift. And thank you, Shaq, for opening up the grocery store as a potential dating market for all of us. You never know who you'll meet at a grocery store as long as you remain open and approachable. Truly, there's so many unknowns. You just never know.
I feel like you always hear like you could meet someone at a grocery store, but we never have heard like a story of it actually working. So I love that there is the success story now.
Yes.
We're so happy for you, Shaq, and your family, and we're really wishing you all the best.
And next up, we've got Louise.
I started listening to Dateable pretty early on. I know Julie and Yue personally, but beyond knowing them, I was in a place that I really wanted to explore what dating and relationships looked like for me. I was raised to follow a really traditional path of not even dating someone until you think you want to marry them, having kids, buying a house, all of that good stuff. And I wanted to figure out, as I came into adulthood, what relationships looked like for me. And at the time, I was more focused on building my career and becoming as self-sufficient as possible. But I knew that relationships had a place in my life. I just wasn't sure what that looked like. And I wanted to explore different perspectives and stories and dynamics. And the podcast really provided that outlet for me. A couple big shifts happened. I let myself explore those different dynamics in dating. I dated without expectations, all sorts of different kinds of people, but had never really experienced a committed partnership because I was also figuring out what that looked like for me, partly. The other part was that I needed to unlearn some stories around relationships being something that traps you or keeps you confined in life. So by dating different kinds of people and working on myself, I really started to learn different things about myself and unlearn those stories. And the podcast was really, really helpful as a guide for that. And then the second biggest shift came a couple years ago. I was dating my now boyfriend in the early days. And while I really liked him and wanted to see where things could go, I was still very hesitant to commit to something more meaningfully. And I was having a conversation with Julie about this. And she really, as a good friend would do, directly told me that I just really needed to give it a shot. That by giving it a shot and committing myself more intentionally, that would give me more information than if I dipped a toe in and just kind of hesitated for longer. So I decided to follow her advice that same day. And here we are over 2 years into a relationship, and it is so wonderful. I am so thrilled to be with my partner. He teaches me so much in our relationship every day. I definitely am very grateful that Julie sat me down and had that conversation with me. And what's great is that I found someone who is willing to not follow the traditional path of relationships, meaning that while we are committed to each other, we do not feel the need to follow the path of following the steps that I saw growing up that I wasn't sure felt right to me. So it's very much, every decision we make is intentional and what we know is right for us. He will be moving in next month. So we're really excited about this new chapter. And as we say in the Bay, when you live across the bridge from each other, it's long distance. So we're really excited to see how our relationship develops with being in much closer proximity to each other. So very excited about that.
Oh, Louise. I love hearing this story so much because we've been through it all with her. Louise is one of Yue and I's near dear friends. She was very much in the sounding board, but we're also very close friends with her from San Francisco. So we know her story inside and out.
What a complete 180 with Louise. There was a moment in our friendship, right, that we discussed is like, I don't know if Louise would ever come around to a relationship. Sometimes you do think like, maybe I'm just not the relationship type. Yeah. And I almost was convinced of that. But then she would meet these people and have connections. And now her current partner, when she met him, she had this strong connection and she was so curious to pursue more of it. But she also was like, I got to maintain my identity as a single independent woman. There was so much conflict in all of that. But both you and I were like, just pursue the connection. Like, go pursue it. Go get curious about it.
I just remember sitting at like this cafe with her because her and I will co-work from time to time and her telling me about him. And she's like, he's really great, like saying all the stuff. And she's like, he wants to like be exclusive and, but it's only been like a couple months and I'm just not sure. And like, maybe I'll just like date other people and like date him and just like see where it goes. And, I think I need to be dating multiple people. And I was like, no, you don't need to be dating multiple people. Because, okay, like if you're the type of person that falls fast and gets ahead of yourself, I would not give that same advice. But for someone like her that maybe needs to take the leap a little more, she's very much a maverick inside and out and a thinker. Yes. A thinker also. Yes. Very much a thinker. And I think she was like, well, I'll commit when I'm sure. And I'm like, you're never going to be sure and you're never going to get to know this person until you spend time with them. And if you're seeing them once a week or once every 2 weeks and it's like not, like your heart's like you're playing the field and like seeing who else is out there, you're just never gonna like realize if they're the right fit for you. Just try it with them. Take that month, try it. And if it doesn't work out, you can get back on the apps. You can meet more people. Like that was never her problem, right? It was never like an issue to find people and meet people. So yeah, I get it. Like all comes down to like your own patterns. But I think for her, it was very much a good thing to be like, let me commit and try this, really put my heart into it and see where it goes.
And I couldn't think of a better person for her than her partner.
We love her partner.
Continuously shows up for her, right? But has boundaries. And just having those two qualities really reeled her in and she was able to see like, this is a great partner for me.
I don't think I even told you this, Yue, but her and I were co-working the other day and he called like while we were together and she like passes me the phone and she's like, he wants to chat with you. And I was like, okay. He was just like, hey, what's up? How's your day going? Like shooting the shit. And I was like, that sounds like I do, like my partner and I do hang out with them a lot. We do really love them. So, but it was like very sweet. I was like, I like that. Like I like when it like you could kind of form a relationship with your friends' partners a bit too.
Yes, agreed.
And I'm so excited that they're moving in together. I think that's so exciting and that they're taking that next step. And yeah, we just wish the best for them and nothing good things are in their future.
Our girl is all grown up. I'm emotional.
Love it. Okay, well, next up, we have Matthias, another member of our lovely community. Let's hear it from him.
I started listening to Dateable around fall of 2019, not long after going through a breakup that had hit me pretty hard. I'd taken some time to grieve and had started dating again, but it felt lonely and discouraging. Listening to Dateable gave me a sense of connection and made me feel less alone in what I was going through at the time. Today, I'm in a long-term committed relationship, and my girlfriend and I have been together for a little over 2 years. On reflection, the biggest shift was learning through other people's stories and realizing that I wasn't dating to complete myself. I started seeing myself as already whole, and dating became less about trying to fill a gap that I thought was there and more about genuinely getting to know someone and choosing whether I wanted to include them in my life.
So well spoken and so well put. I think Matthias always had the confidence with him, right? From you, he just brings in this presence from the minute you meet him. You're like, this guy is very confident. But I didn't realize there was all this vulnerability behind it all, where he talks about this idea of like, he used to date to to make himself whole, to, you know, complete him. And now he realizes he is a complete person, and whoever he is in a relationship with is only additive. Something we've been talking about for years, but to actually live that belief is life-changing.
I think a lot of us are in this boat, and sometimes we aren't always conscious about it. Like, I think for me, for years, like, I wasn't like, oh, I need someone to complete me. But there was that like undertone of like, you're inferior if you're single and you need to find that person, and all the cultural stuff that comes in, and freaking Jerry Maguire, the worst scene ever of you complete me, right? And we talk about this a lot in our book, How to Be Dateable. It's like when you can shift out of that mentality and you're just trying to find someone that jives with you, that like is additive in your life, that you like because you like them, not because they're filling some void for you. That's what it's all about. And I think when we're not in that mode and we're in this like, I need to find someone to complete me, I need to find someone to move to that next level with, so I made it, I'm in society's eyes, I'm a winner. That's when we fall into validation trap.
Absolutely. And I love hearing the calmness in his voice as he talks about him and his partner being together for a little bit over 2 years now, and just feeling really solid in that statement. Good for Matthias.
Definitely. I think we hear a lot of people too come to listen to us after a breakup. So it is a good reminder, though, that it's a good time to reset, reconnect with yourself, understand what you're really looking for and what needs to change to find someone aligned with you. Because like clearly on this podcast, we talk about like, you know, ways to meet people and going on dates and kind of that basic layer, but I like to believe we go way deeper than that, because I personally think it's just the surface. And while of course you need to get out and meet people, it's the mode that you're in. It's the way that you're approaching dating, the way you're connected to yourself and others. That's what is actually going to move the needle if you meet someone. So we hear people that are just like, where do I go? And it's like, there's no secret place. It's what you do to like get there. And then you start to meet people wherever you go, whether it's apps or in person.
In case we forgot, Matthias actually participated in our virtual, the most dateable pageant. I don't know if you want to call it that.
I did almost forget about this. Yeah.
A virtual competition, but it was not really competition. It was during COVID. Everything was virtual, and we had a few contestants. Matthias was one of the contestants. I remember he sang and played on his guitar.
Yep.
And everyone swooned, including myself. I was like, damn, this guy is so talented. In case you were there with us during that era, you might remember who Matthias is.
Did almost forget about that for a second. I think he might have sang in did like guitar in one of the happy hours also.
He did. Yep.
Did. Yeah.
He's very talented.
But I love that he leaves with the message that this made him feel less alone. And I think that's something we've heard like a ton from people, and honestly was a driver for the two of us creating this in the first place. Because I know personally, I used to always feel like, am I the only one that like can't make it work? And of course, like we don't like that others, you know, are also struggling, but there is something about being like, it's not just me. This is dating. It's hard.
Yeah.
You know, this is the world we're in, and like everyone is going through it, and eventually they'll get to the other side, but it's not something I'm doing necessarily.
Right.
Okay. Well, before we hear from our last guest, and this is a good one, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors.
We talk a lot on Dateable about being present in dating, but let's be real. That's hard when your phone is basically a third wheel. Enter Brick. Brick is a simple device that helps you put your phone down when you actually want to be in the moment. You just pair your phone to Brick and it locks you out of distracting apps, and suddenly you're not doom scrolling while your date is telling a story about their childhood dog. Whether you're on a first date, having a real conversation, or just trying to stop checking your phone every 30 seconds, Brick creates boundaries with your tech without asking you to delete everything or go full digital detox. Dating is about connection, not notifications. So if you want to be more present and honestly more attractive, check out Brick. Go to getbrick.app/dateable to get 10% off. That's getbrick.app/dateable to get 10% off.
Okay. And last but not least, we're hearing from Julia.
I started listening at the beginning 2020 for the beginning of the pandemic. Started listening and I was hooked right away. I was just really drawn to you guys' personalities, the way that you guys communicated with each other. I could tell that you guys were not just like surfacey. You know, you guys echoed a lot of the thoughts and questions and self-reflection on things and growth that I was really interested in myself. Honestly, you guys really helped me to grow my own interpersonal relationships, not just dating, but just to learn how to basically disagree with people without letting that be like the end of a friendship. Because I didn't have a lot of people like showing that to me in my life growing up and just even through my adulthood. You know, after 2020, it just began a much deeper inner work and self-reflection and just trying really hard to be a better person and have better relationships overall. Dateable, listening to you guys and listening to Dateable was a huge part in just shifting the way that I interacted with the world. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it really did. It really helped me a lot with my business, with my clients, with my family members, with my friends, and obviously dating. But it definitely took a longer time for me to find some success in dating. I was chronically single. I had been single for the vast majority of my adult life. Basically had situationships almost my whole life. And I had only had a couple of semi-long-term relationships, and those were like in my very late teens when I was like 19 to 21. And then later on when I was like 26, and that wasn't even long term. That was less than a year. But those were my only two real serious relationships. And then everything else was just a lot of situationships. And I was just having a hard time finding the right person, really. Dating at that time was frustrating, very frustrating. I had a lot of false starts. I seemed to fall into the trap of guys would be really into me in the first week or 2 or 3, and then they would just ghost. That just kept happening over and over and over. And it wasn't until I did a lot of inner work and self-reflection to, really see why maybe that was happening or why I was allowing that to happen. So in January of 2025, I started dating again, because I would take really big breaks. I would take anywhere from a few months to like a couple year breaks where I just didn't date at all. But during those times, I would do a lot of inner work. I believe that those breaks, those intentional breaks where I didn't just sit on my laurels, I would go and approach dating differently each time, newly. And that helped me to grow and to figure out what I really wanted and helped me to be a lot more of just an authentic person. And then that really bled over into just becoming a really authentic dater. And in January 2025, I met Josh on Bumble, and he was just everything that I had wanted in a partner and everything I needed in a partner. To be honest, I had already embraced the fuck the spark mentality because that never got me anywhere before. And with Josh, we met and we instantly had a connection. We clicked. There wasn't like a crazy spark, but there was enough there for me to say, okay, I'm going to keep going with this because I really liked this guy and I loved interacting with him. And he felt safe, and I don't mean safe in a boring way. He felt safe in a secure way that I'd never felt ever before with anyone. And he thought the same of me. We had both done a lot of inner work and were ready. And it was funny because he was the one who was asking all the big questions just right off the bat. Like every time we interacted, he would have questions, asking, what do you want? What are you looking for? Do you want kids? Do you see yourself getting married? Do you, and it's just even bigger, deeper questions than that. And I thought, okay, this guy is really, he knows what he wants too. And he's not afraid. And we both came at it that way and were very honest. And we just really clicked. And we fell in love pretty quickly. It just was awesome. He moved in within a couple of months And we were engaged then in September. Then we started planning a wedding for this coming September 2026. And in January, we decided to go ahead and just elope. And we got married on our 1-year anniversary of our first date, January 25th. And it was awesome, and it was emotional, and it was everything. We're still going to be doing the wedding in September. We're super excited about that. Our families are so excited. So we can't wait to celebrate. But yeah, so that's my update. And it took some time, a long time, but it was so worth it. And I would do it over again a million times over to get to where I am now, because I am annoyingly happy. Josh and I are so in love, and we laugh so much, and the sparks are definitely there now. And we both just like feed each other as far as like encouragement and cheerleader. And we've grown. I've grown. There's things that, I realized at a certain point being single that I could only do so much to grow and learn and be ready as a single person. I knew that there were so many things I was just going to have to wait to meet someone to learn and grow more within a relationship. And that definitely happened. And, luckily I have a partner who is just amazing at communication and being open. And, we've both learned from each other that we are a safe space for each other. And that is huge, because we don't really react in a bad way, where we are truly a safe space for each other. We can say anything and we can talk through anything. And it's like nothing I've ever experienced before. To wrap it up, life is awesome now. Thank you guys so much for everything. I absolutely try to get everyone who is single and wanting to find someone to listen to Dateable or to read your book. It's changed my life. You guys have really changed my life, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Wow. That one just like blew me away. What you know,
great
right?
Note to end on. I am so in love with this message. Julia represents so many of you out there who kind of gave up on dating, did all the dating sabbaticals, like I got to get off the apps. There's nobody out there. And she even did the self-work, but had the thought that she couldn't find someone to meet her where she was. And she is such a great example of this message of let people surprise you. This partner came into her life, started asking her deep questions, and she's like, whoa, someone's done the work. Someone's curious. Someone wants to go deeper. Like, if you allow the universe to deliver someone like this to you, then you will be met if you're open to it.
I love this because it isn't just love at first sight. Like, I mean, they clearly had an instant connection and it moved all very quickly, but it wasn't the spark that drew her. And she, in fact, said there was an initial spark. It grew over time. But I think it really came back to like them both being ready. Both of them being in that same place and meeting each other there. And then once they formed that connection, they just moved with it. They were like, this is what I'm looking for.
Yep. And it came at a time where she was like, I'm happy being alone because I am good, right? My life is good. And sometimes when you're just in like such a good, happy, open place, that's when you find your person.
I love just the difference between all of the people that we had write in and share their, voice notes with us. Julia definitely sent a very long one. And then she also wrote me like a novel as well. And she's like, in case you want to share some of this. And I'm like, oh, I have to. It's just too good. But she was like, wanted to also echo that her and her husband are in their late 40s. So you can find love at any age. So don't give up. So that was a message she wanted to relay. And then also, like, for anyone that's like, how did she actually meet someone on an app? How did she do this? And I think a lot of what she said is very in line with what we talk about on the podcast and the book, How to Be Dateable. And she said there were a couple key things. I'm just going to run through them real quick. The first one was that she looked at everything like an experiment. And she wasn't too emotionally invested in like little things. Like they were simply experiments. Every interaction, everything she tried that was new with her dating profile, for instance, or just like in general, like she was just in this very like open-minded date like a scientist mentality. She also did the 30-second rule at house party mentality that we talk about, that she would like profiles that maybe weren't like amazing, similar to Caitlin, but it was more of just, why not? I'm not not like promising my life with this person. It's not even a promise to have a date. It's a conversation. And then she was filtering through the conversation. She also said that she did pay for Bumble Premium after testing other apps too. She kind of tested to see which one she liked the best, ended up on Bumble and doubled down. And I think this is interesting because we hear a lot of people be like, why should I pay for a dating app? And I don't know where along the way we've believed they should all just be free. I think maybe because it like started that way, but it is a service at the end of the day. And I am okay admitting that I paid for like Hinge Premium too. I was like, if this is going to help me out and enable me to like do one of the things that is most important to me, to meet someone, like why wouldn't I pay for it? I'm putting that out there because I think a lot of times we forget that. And for some reason, we think that apps do kind of like owe us to run for free.
I mean, you would never go, there are no free singles events.
No,
people
that's
pay
why
for those all the time. Right?
Like I get like you don't want to be in a situation where you feel like the app is like keeping you hostage to make money. I get that's wrong. But to pay them to do their job, like why wouldn't you do that?
Yes.
She also said that she got into the mentality that you can't scare away what's meant for you. And we always say this. She was like, I'm done worrying about like saying something wrong or showing too much interest. And like if they're not the one, they're not the one. Like she really got to that like rejection proof and not taking things personally. And then the last thing she said was that she didn't get too wrapped up in like the dating app dynamics. Like she didn't count how many profiles were bad. She just really focused on what was good and slightly interesting. And I think that's so important. Like who even cares? Like if there's like bad people out there, just ignore them and move on to someone better. There's all these like the burnt haystack method and like all these like groups that are like analyzing every last thing and blocking. And it's like, I get you don't want to, stand for bad behavior and get like roped into bad people. But there's also recognizing bad behavior and just like moving forward and being like, not for me. Like it doesn't need to be like this big thing that you like block and, share with people, like all the like terrible things in people's profiles. To me, that just feels like you're giving people more attention and energy than they even need.
Totally.
And she also, of course, she said throughout this whole thing, like she had been doing some of this stuff before, but it was really the inner work and self-reflection that made it all click. And she did say too that before she met her husband, she had this huge heartbreak come in with a male best friend where a 2-month sparky situationship led to heartbreak. So this was like a real turning point for her that she really wanted to be done with situationships and be with someone where she felt chosen and wanted and respected and really loved. So hopefully I did that justice with all the stuff she shared, but I think there's just so much to her story.
I feel like there's a book for Julia to write.
I think a book for Julia.
There's something there. I think these are such wonderful takeaways, and what she just experienced right before she met Josh is what so many people experience before meeting their person. And they actually teach this in like executive coaching. What is meant for you, like the big job or the financial freedom, whatever you are wanting, right before that happens, you're going to be tested with something that is going to bring out the old you, the old patterns, the old beliefs, and see if you fall for it or not. And it is your goal and your job to keep going, to get over this hump. Like Julie, for you, you had the same thing. You went through a period of quote unquote rejection, which really was just a lot of testing you of your old behaviors. And you were like, I'm not standing for this anymore. And that is exactly what led you to your now husband.
I actually feel like Julia's story, I have a lot of similarities to her.
Yeah, you do.
Also being a fellow queen of situationships. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I do just like the last thing I want to call out about what she said is, and what she said at the very beginning is like, there's so much on this podcast and the stuff we talk about that really is relational work that applies to like all the relationships in our lives. And I'm glad that she was able to call that out, because that means that like you can be building stronger relationships even if you're really single. You could be practicing these skills. You can be also just like, feeling fulfilled more fulfillment and connection in other parts of life. And I really think that helps too with dating, because you don't feel as like starved. You don't feel like you need it as bad when you're feeling like, I mean, clearly a friendship is different than a romantic partner. I'm not going to say it's the same thing, but I think having other people that you feel like connected to will make it not feel as like desperation mode.
Yeah, or as novel. I think that's what happens when you don't feel connected in society, and then you get this like one spark, and then you feel like, this never happens to me. I never feel this connected to anyone. And those stories start spiraling, and the dreamer tendencies come in, and then you end up making up a story about a relationship that never happened.
Totally. I mean, I think with all of these conversations, there's so many takeaways that really were very apparent. I mean, connecting to yourself first was one that I really took away from a lot of people's stories. You know, I saw this TikTok the other day that I wanted to actually talk to you about, so I guess it's a good time. But there was this TikTok that was like, I'm so sick of like people talking about like the self-work that's needed for singles. And it's like people in relationships don't do that, and they're fine. They're not like better than singles. Like they still found someone. And it's like, first of all, no one is saying that people in relationships also don't need to do the self-work. I think this is for everyone. But my take on it is like, if you are single, like why not use that time to your advantage? Why not really get to know yourself? And you can also do this when you're in a relationship too. This shouldn't be reserved. It does seem like it's a little more like a means to an end to get to a relationship, but it certainly shouldn't be. But I think there's that piece of like, why not? And then also, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're like really focused on, you know, having the relationship you want, you've read the books, you've read our book, you've read other books, we're guessing you don't want just like any relationship. Like you want the right relationship, one that's going to be like consciously built. And you cannot do that if you don't know yourself well, and you don't put in that inner work, and you're not focused on growth and finding a partner that also is like that. So yes, like there's a very varying degree of relationships out there. There's some relationships where I'm convinced the people don't ever talk, from some of the stories I've heard from people. And I'm like, what? Like, these people just aren't having conversations. So I think it's less of like a, you must do the work to find a relationship. More, it's like you have this opportunity, you have this drive clearly to be more introspective. Why not use that to find the best darn relationship when that time comes?
So true. One of the biggest complaints we hear from people in relationships is that I've lost myself. I don't know who I am anymore. I've molded myself to this relationship or to my partner, and I forget who I was before this relationship. So for anyone single right now, this is your time to solidify who you are, your values, your beliefs, so that when you do get a relationship, you don't waver, you don't lose a sense of self. And I think you hear this in a lot of these stories, like from Ryan. And it's like the main character is still them. They went through a relationship that they thought they found the one, fell in love, etc. Didn't work out, but they were so sure in themselves and their confidence in their, belief in love that they were able to find someone even better suited for them. But it was not about that. It's not, our success stories isn't like, how did you find the one? It's how did you not lose yourself along this journey of love, and what did you learn to grow and expand yourself?
I think with all of them, there was such an experimental mindset of like, if things aren't working the way I want, or I'm not getting the results I want, let me just try something new. Instead of like blaming the apps or blaming other people, it's like, what can I do that's different? And I think sometimes that was trying new avenues or changing up who you think your type is. I love that we got a variety of how people met, even like for the people that did meet someone. Yes. It's like we have people that met on apps and grocery stores through friends. Like you really don't know where you're going to meet your person. So like, why not keep those options open?
And let the universe surprise you, right? Don't sometimes we feel like we can outsmart happenstance, that we can be like, no, I already know who's going to be at this event. I already know that there's nobody good for me on the apps. Like you don't know. So lean into the I don't know and let people surprise you. And that's when the magic really happens.
And a lot of these people shared that they started listening to this podcast like 2018 to 2020-ish. We are now in 2026. So it takes time. Like this stuff takes time. Of course, we all wish that you would like open our book and read it and then like meet someone tomorrow, or listen to like one episode of the podcast and meet someone amazing. But it very rarely works that way. And I think that's okay. Like that's, again, like embrace the time that you have to like really like get to know what you're looking for, what your own values are, yourself, all of that. And I think every relationship you're in, even if it lasts like a week or it lasts years and it ends up not being the right one, that's all such important leverage to like ultimately get to where you want to go. Because through those experiences, that's when you learn what works and what doesn't for you.
So put yourself in our interviewee's shoes. Let's say, pretend we're going to interview you a year from now. We've reached out to you. We said you have a success story to share with us. One, what would be your success story? And then two, what would be your advice to people of how you were able to reach this quote unquote success? What would be these nuggets of advice like Julia has shared and learnings that you would want to share with our audience? And then work backwards. Start doing all those things now. I swear to you, when you do this like future sort of exercise, you will see so clearly the actions you need to take today.
I love that so much. And then reach out to us a year from now and we'll feature you.
Yeah, tell us you're going to start your journey today and then we'll track you for a year and then we'll have you back on. It's actually not a bad idea.
Not at
Volunteers, anybody?
Well, this has been such a great episode. It truly warms my heart to like see how far people have gone and clearly having wonderful partners now. But like you said, Yue, like just the change of tone in their voice, this like feeling of like being content and being happy, feeling carefree, the anxiety is lifted. Like that to me is what true success looks like in dating, whether you find a partner or not.
We're so grateful to have been along for the journey, to have witnessed everyone's transformations and mindset shifts. And the better part of all of this is that this is never ending. We're going to be hearing more stories and we're going to follow all of your growth and there are going to be more changes and we're here for it all. We're here to support you all through that.
And if you want to make sure that you really just put growth full steam ahead, go get How to Be Dateable if you haven't yet. I think understanding your dating archetype and using that information as you work through the book too is such a good way to get to what Yue was saying of like, where do I want to be in a year from now? So make sure you get the book. It's on mega sale right now too on Amazon. So if you've gotten the audiobook, sometimes it also helps to have the hardcover that you can like jot things down and notes within it. And there are some differences between audio and hardcover too. So go get that, or maybe it's the other way around. You haven't gotten the audiobook yet. Also there for you.
And we're going to give you a chance for a two-way conversation here. Do you have a question for any of the people we interviewed? Is there a follow-up question you want to know? Is there someone you really identified with and you want to know, how did you get over this challenging period? You can ask that question by giving us a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. And in the body, 5 stars, please. But in the body of your review, please, you can ask a question, address it to the person that you're interested in asking this to, and then ask your question there. We will make sure to relay this to the person that you want to ask and then get you an answer.
And if you're on Spotify, you can also do this by just leaving the rating, but then in the episode, you can leave comments and you can basically leave it there, the question.
Cool. All right. We're going to wrap up this meaty episode. Stay dateable.